Incredible. Okay, we're in. Jay Yang first audio only podcast. This is quite interesting. Like we're looking at screens, both of us, but we can't see each other. It's kind of like mysterious.
I'm looking at a yin yang right now.
That does look kind of mystical down there in the corner. But dude, how are you doing? There's a lot moving in your life right now, I feel like.
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's been definitely a hectic series of months. Just a lot of preparing for the book launch, transitioning from college to, I guess, the biggest news that I really haven't shared anywhere publicly. So maybe this will be the first spot I'll share it. But I am dropping out of college to
Wow.
work full time at acquisition.com with Alex and Layla Hormozi on their content team. So it's been a big move.
Wow. Congratulations. When did this manifest?
Happened about a month and a half ago. And so I've been working with their team part time, transitioning off of my, handing off some of my ghostwriting clients and finishing out the semester. So it's been fun, a little stressful, but exciting things ahead.
I can imagine. I mean, like, where does the book fit into all of this? I'm so curious about your daily schedule. Like, how are you doing all of this?
I like to do a lot of my personal stuff, so social writing, book research in the morning. So I'll wake up and knock out, if I can, a good hour or two of that stuff before the hectic day begins. And honestly, like the college classes and stuff, it doesn't take that long. I'm a business major, and especially since it's freshman year, a lot of it is like not super tedious, and the stuff that is like, it's pretty easy to finish. So I like to do a lot of the other client work and other stuff during the day. And then at night, I try to reflect on how the day went and set priorities for the next day.
It's pretty disciplined. I love it. I mean, I'm in college too again now, which is funny. How because when I met you in Austin and when we met in Illinois, I think at that point I was the college dropout and you were debating like, should I go? What do you think? And I was like, nah, dude, you don't need it. And then now I'm back in college. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I just try to batch my stuff like as much as possible because I mean that's probably why you're leaving. It's just like, oh, this is just not worth my time and my energy. It's just trivial.
Yeah, I mean, how did that happen? I mean, a lot has occurred since we last spoke. What made you decide to go back to college?
Yeah. So I was fully set on being an entrepreneur and I went down to the jungle in Peru with Taylor Simmons and Dale, if you know those guys from the creator economy.
Two
And
legends.
yeah, they're awesome. The guys, they're great guys. And we spent 10 days down there in the jungle. And I had this dream essentially where in the dream I realized I wanted to play sports again. The subconscious was kind of off. I dreamed I wanted to play baseball, but in reality I wanted to play football and I wanted to play quarterback again. And I
Mhm.
sat with that for like 5 more days. It was really zooming out to the grand scheme of my life. I was like, I want to play quarterback. I want to play football. I want to play quarterback while I can for one more year. Maybe who knows what happens in the next few years. I think I have a few years of eligibility. But the thing that came with that is school. And that's probably been it's been like the one area of my life where I'm like, ugh, like fuck. Every other area of my life, it feels very in alignment. Um, but yeah, school's kind of it's the price I had to pay, I guess, to play. But it was really
Yeah.
football oriented. It wasn't like school oriented. Maybe a few percentage points of like who knows what a degree could unlock. I don't know. I mean, probably not with how the world's changing. I don't see it being that valuable, but you never know, I guess.
Is there a specific major you're doing right now?
Yeah, I'm doing psychology, which out of anything that's the most aligned. I enjoy it sometimes. It's just I mean, you know this. You can learn anything on the internet instantly. And just the way that classes are taught, it doesn't feel aligned with the times. I'm always working on my own stuff in class in the back corner, just like building my own stuff. And
Hmm.
then yeah, I can still do good enough on the tests and understand the material from like looking at it a few times, which I don't know, maybe I can do that, I have a good memory or something, but Yeah, I don't know. It just feel. I mean, how do you approach that? Like, because I feel like okay, maybe this is the thing. People say how you do anything is how you do everything. And so there's been part of me that's like, shit, should I actually just, do my best in school because that's going to translate to every facet of life? There's probably some truth in that, but it's hard to get myself to do it and really care. So how do you navigate that? Because it's clearly probably not your number one priority.
I think that saying is, catchy, and there's obviously some truth to it. I think the greater truth is that it's just not true. And if you look at the highest performers in any field, they've learned how to prioritize, and not only prioritize in the macro, but also prioritize in the micro, because what's important to you right now may change. Everyone goes through different seasons of life. And so for someone in who's my age, but in a different position, maybe taking classes super seriously is what they need, and is right for them. But for me, and I think for you especially, we've been exposed to this side of the internet where a lot of the things that is necessary for us to actualize our vision isn't necessarily like needed in college. And so especially now that AI has become more of a thing, and you can prompt it and ask it different questions, and you can engage in learning in such a quicker with shorter and quicker feedback loops. At least for me personally, I think what I was learning in college this past year hasn't been as transformational as the things I've been learning outside of college.
Hmm. Tell me about what you've been learning outside of college.
A lot of things. I think one of the biggest things I've learned outside of college is that there's no speed limit. And, I write about it in my book. There's this story of Derek Sievers who, when he was 17 years old, right now, he's an author and entrepreneur, but when he was 17 years old, he was an incoming student at the Berklee College of Music. And one day he saw an ad in the newspaper where um, there was this Berkeley alumni who was, offering free music lessons. And so he called him up and said, "Hey, I have this question on music theory I wanted to ask you." And so the alumni agreed and said, "Hey, you know what? Instead of just talking to you over the phone, come by my apartment tomorrow and I'll go over the entire curriculum." And obviously this was an insane opportunity. So Derek Sievers said yes. And the next day he showed up. Um, they engaged in different lessons. And this alumni proceeded to teach Derek the entire semester's curriculum in 3 hours.
Exactly.
And it just goes to show, like, the system is designed to accommodate the average because that's what most people are. And that's what it has to do. But there's no reason that someone with a little bit more agency, a little bit more drive, a little bit more desire can't go past that speed limit. And so I
Mm,
think for you and I, since we've been exposed to these different ideas and this realization that you can go faster, um, there's just a lot outside of college that you can learn as well.
mm. I think that the system is just outdated, and I think almost anybody, maybe I would say anybody, has some type of obsessive creative genius in them. It's just they've never found it. They've never discovered it. And it's going to vary. Like there's definitely tiers. Some people have natural gifts and talents, but I think everybody can do something where they just become obsessed with it and learn it in 3 hours, like Derek Sivers. Everybody has that. It's just going to manifest differently. But I mean, what do you observe about? Because you're having a lot of different conversations, and so am I, right? And one hand, you're probably like talking to kids in class, and on the other hand, you're probably like talking to Alex Hormozi, right? It's a pretty big spectrum. So, what has that been like being around? Because you're a freshman, like 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds. That's probably pretty crazy.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, there's two lessons I'd say that I've been learning specifically from that is, like, number one, there are no adults and everyone is just winging it. Everyone's just trying their best to figure it out. And we often, especially online, we see this persona and we put them on a pedestal like they're better than us, or, success is reserved for someone out in the distance. Um, but you can also just do things, which also happens to be the title of my book, is just
Yeah.
realizing that you have power over your life, your career, your circumstances. I think the second thing is that you can learn from everyone, whether that's having a conversation with a classmate in the dining hall or hopping on a Zoom call with, Alex's content team, or going on Slack and texting a, $100 million entrepreneur. Like there's lessons that you can pull from everything. And so operating from an area of curiosity and of humbleness has been one of my biggest takeaways from having conversations that are so wide and so diverse.
Right. What has it been like being a freshman in college for you?
I'd say it's been fun. I know we had this conversation when I was in high school and I was debating if college was the right move,
Yeah.
but I definitely don't regret going to college. Like it's been incredible. I've met so many amazing people. I've had the chance in a safer environment to experiment and to learn more about myself, what I want, what I don't want. And it gave me the freedom to be able to take a step back and realize, hey, there are some things out there that I still want. And that even though I can continue on my current path and be just okay, there's more out there that I want. And there's something
Mhm.
inside me that wants to keep pushing for more. There's something calling me out there. And so when I was talking to an entrepreneur friend, when I was actually visiting Austin, he dropped out of college and he said, I don't regret going to college and I don't regret dropping out.
Was
And
that
all
me?
that that was not you, but obviously you probably have similar beliefs. Um, but yeah, it's obviously early in the journey, but I think this is the right move.
Yeah, and the move, I remember when I made the first decision to leave college, and it was this big thing. Like I had to first come to the conclusion myself, but then I had to go tell people, and that was the toughest part. It was like I have to make a phone call to my parents and tell them this. That was the hardest part of the decision for me. So, I mean, was it frictionless for you, or was there like a debate? What was it like?
Oh no, there was definitely friction, um, especially from my grandparents who, they've come from a different time period, and when they grew up, like college was the way you get out of where you are to somewhere where you want to be. And it was like the only way you could do that. And they immigrated across the country, not a country, across the world to go to college. And so the fact that I'm
Mm,
quote unquote squandering this opportunity was definitely, there was some pushback. But I think instead of trying to tell them that things will be all right and, tell them about all my fancy visions and dreams, it's much easier to show them and to generate
mhm,
evidence. And so, like, if there's other college kids listening to this, I'm not being rash because I have a portfolio of evidence from the things I've done in high school that make this move not super risky. And so it's like, you know, in Million Dollar Weekend, Noah Kagan's book, he talks about getting to your freedom number before you quit your job. And I think, it's very similar if you're in college. It's like, how can you make different experiments? How can you test before you fully invest? And so I think I've done enough work where this isn't like some bold, crazy move from left field. So that's how I presented it to my family.
yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, and, that same, like, calculated risk, your quote, unquote, "risk," it's not a risk in my opinion, but it's perceived as a risk. The quote, unquote, "calculated risk" you're taking now is the same thing as the one your grandparents took to come here. That was just the frontier, like, go to America and go to college. Now the frontier is, like, go on the internet, and you're following in their footsteps in a way. Maybe they couldn't see it that way, but that could be an interesting frame to them if they're still like kind of on your ass. My grandma was on my ass for about a year and a half all the time. She's like, when are you going to go back to Northwestern? When are you going to go back to Northwestern? So I think it's part of it, but it's a good test too of your faith in yourself and your trust in yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, it's your family just wants you to be safe and they want your security more than they want your growth, is they just want to see you be safe and okay. So and I definitely don't blame them. They just come from different perspectives.
Right. Yeah. Tell me about the students at Illinois because okay, for context for a listener, Jay goes to Illinois Champaign, Urbana-Champaign. It's a huge school. Like I don't know, 40,000 people, something like that.
Something like
20,000.
that.
It's a
Yeah.
lot of people. It's like a city. I go to a small little school called Illinois Benedictine, and it's like 1,000 or like 1,500 kids or something like that. So very different world, and it's a Catholic school too. But do you find like your is anybody in your school, maybe not your grade, because freshman, that's super young to be even interested in this stuff, I would say, but older kids even, do you find are they doing online stuff? Are they working with AI? Are they building outside of class, or is it kind of just go to school? What do you see?
There's a little bit of that. There's definitely a pocket of people who have found their way onto Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. And um, there's a like it's funny, there's an underground society of college entrepreneurs who sometimes meet up, which sounds super mysterious, but uh,
That's funny. Yeah.
it's people of all kinds of backgrounds. We have fitness trainers, online fitness trainers. We have a guy who has 7 million followers across all socials. We have yoga instructors. We have like the traditional sense of influencers slash models.
Wow.
There's a lot of different people, and sometimes we'll come together and there's a meetup. But for the most part, I think we're each in our own silos, and it goes to the Hormozi quote, like if you want better friends are busier friends. They're doing things, and so um, there's definitely an underground community, but it's not like super close knit, tight. Like we're gonna all meet in a coffee shop and build together.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're all kind of like personal brands working on your own thing. That's pretty cool though that there's so many kids there doing that. Um, yeah, I haven't really found that in my school. It's a very small sample size, of course, and UIC is a very good school. Um, but yeah, I haven't found many people that are doing it. Some people are like creating Instagram videos. Maybe that's about it. But maybe somebody will listen to this podcast and be like, "No, I want to like, how do I take this seriously?" Because one aspect, it's all fun. Like this podcast is just fun. Business is a game, right? But you do have to take it seriously to the extent that it can change your life. And it's about to change your life in a big way, man. I'm excited for you. Like, are you gonna move somewhere new?
Yeah, I am moving to Las Vegas uh, late May, early June, so I'll be
Wow,
across the country.
that's awesome. Are you excited?
Definitely excited. Definitely a little nervous. First time living completely on my own. Halfway across the country from everyone else I know. But at the same time, it's super exciting. I remember being a sophomore in high school, watching Alex Hormozi's YouTube videos in class, and just being like, I remember there's Danny Miranda interviewed him, and I was in class, and I thought to myself, wow, it would be cool to like work for Alex one day. And
Hmm.
now that's happening. So it's definitely a surreal full circle experience.
Wow. Yeah, I've been studying like laws of manifestation, like quantum physics, laws of the universe stuff. And you manifested this perfectly, but not understanding like, okay, I'm using the laws of quantum physics. But I was teaching this today in my cohort. You adhered to it perfectly because it starts with an idea, which is just a belief it's a possible future, and then you stayed aligned with the frequency that aligned with that idea, which was, I mean, it's everything starts as just an idea. Everything in reality is an idea. And so, yeah, man, it's like your dedication and discipline over the last 2 years. That's the coherence to the frequency. So you're listening to this out here and you want to create a new life, have an idea. What do you want to create? Maybe you want to work for Alex Hormozi, whatever it is. What type of person do you have to become today in this moment for that to happen? And I think you're a great example of that. It's really fucking cool to see.
Yeah, there's been a framework I've been playing around with, which is 4 steps to manifesting specifically for your career, but like step one is, what do you want to happen? And a lot of people don't take enough time to reflect on what they want out of their career, what they want out of life. They spend more time planning the weekend than they do planning their career, which, everyone has different perspectives and priorities, but I think it would be a mistake not to reflect the most on the decisions that impact your life the most. And obviously, like you won't know 100% what you want. No one can predict where they'll end up 5 to 10 years from now. But it's the act of thinking about, hey, what do I actually want? Not what society wants, not what my parents want, not what my teachers tell me to want, but what do I want? And then also reflecting on what do I not want? Obviously it won't be perfect at the start, but it's the part of reflection that I think is most important and that is most
Mhm.
missed, especially nowadays when it's so much easier to open up Instagram and scroll when you can, it's much harder to sit down and actually reflect. And it's something that I'm struggling with now. I would say step two is okay, now that you kind of have a general sense of what you want, what do you need to learn in order to make that happen? What are the skills, beliefs, or character traits that you have to adopt to make that vision a reality? Step three would be, who do you need to connect with in order to learn those things, in order to make that happen? And so that's where, something that I've been incredibly intentional about in my career is trying to work with or work for or partner or surround myself with the type of people that will either consciously or unconsciously teach me or help me adopt those behaviors that will help me achieve what I want. And then step four is a lot of what I talk about in the book, which is how can you make it a no-brainer for the other person to want to connect with you? What are the things that you can do that will make them like have zero friction and want you to work with them? And so like if you can identify those four steps, I think you're well on your way to manifesting what you want.
Yeah, and it's very well outlined. Like, guys, you don't have to go take a online business course. That's basically the breakdown. I mean, there's so many more nuances, but that's a broad outline for a book or a course, and maybe that is the book. So, yeah, tell me about the book. Like, where did the idea originate from, and what's it been like really sitting down every day and writing that? Like, how's it grown? How's it evolved?
The book has evolved a lot. I rewrote it 17 times,
Oh my
which,
goodness.
you know, has been excruciating at some points. I've always wanted to write a book, even since I was a little kid. I thought the idea of being an author and being able to physically hold like your ideas and in reality, like that was cool. And even now, as I'm like touching my book, like it feels awesome, quite frankly. Um, but the book is about the permissionless approach, the idea that you don't need to wait to create the opportunities you want in your career or in your life. And I had the idea for the book, about a year and a half ago when I actually first used it to work with Beehive and work at several startups in high school and work with Noah Kagan. But I always thought that I wasn't ready to write the book. I had a lot of the ideas and research and stories in in my note cards, but I didn't actually take the time to flesh it out because I thought, oh, it'll be a better book when I'm insert future age. But what I realized is, you know, and it's the thing that we always talk about in this circle of our internet community, which is like, you don't need to be the guru, you can be the guide. And this book,
Mhm.
I truly believe, will help people who are one or two steps behind me, who feel ambitious and driven and intense, but they don't know what to do with that. Because
Mhm.
I've been there, I know that feeling, and it will eat you inside out if you don't find a vehicle to release all that energy.
Mhm. And that mindset is really all that it takes. You just have to have this relentless, unwavering self-belief that you're going to figure it out and it's going to work out eventually. And then from that place, you just take actions. I think that's where a lot of people get caught up, and myself too sometimes. It's the ideas are easy, the actions are hard. The daily actions. Okay, you have the idea, I want to be a digital nomad and live on the beach or work 4 hours a day, whatever it is. Cool. Now, are you going to sit down for 2 to 4 hours every day and do the thing? That's the key. And I think that's why you have to love it. And that's why, I feel like we're both very obsessed with what we're doing in our unique ways. And it's because it's the highlight of my day to like go sit down here at the computer in the morning, coffee, just write. It's like my ideal morning. I don't want anything else.
Yeah, and I especially think like in the age of the internet and now with like AI, being obsessed with what you do has never been more important. Because, I think there's a quote from Naval. He says, if you're not 100% into it, somebody else who is 100% into it will outperform you. And they won't just outperform you by a little bit. They'll outperform you by a lot because of how the internet works. And so it's definitely important to experiment, try things, and figure out what gives you energy. In the book, I talk about 3 tests that people can use to identify the things that naturally they're inclined to and give them energy. The first test is the P test, which is pay attention to what you get so absorbed in that you forget to take care of basic needs like peeing, which has happened to me a lot where
Really
I'm in
good.
the middle of
Yeah.
working and I'm like, oh shit, like I gotta go, but I just don't want to get up and leave my computer.
Hmm.
Um, the second one would be the midnight test. What keeps you awake at night, not out of stress, but out of excitement? What would you willingly sacrifice sleep for, even if no one else noticed or cared? And the third test is the boredom test. What do you find fascinating that others find boring? And
Mm.
it's kind of like I write a weekly newsletter. Every Sunday it goes out to about 10,000 people. My brother finds that so boring. He's like, "Why would you give yourself weekly homework?" But for me, it's so exciting. And
Yeah.
so it's like finding those things that don't make sense to other people, but clearly make sense to you.
Yeah. It's not an obligation to you, it's a choice. And maybe you do impose a deadline on yourself and something you want to adhere to, but it's out of love. You discipline yourself for anything that you love. If you want to be a great athlete, you have to discipline yourself. If you want to be a great writer, you have to discipline yourself. And I mean, I know we haven't really spoken in like a year, but from an outside perspective, that's what I observe about you is extreme discipline and extreme focus and consistency. And I mean, it's quite interesting to me. I would love, I would love at some point to look at your astrology chart, which maybe isn't the topic for this conversation, but let me know. But yeah, you have this disciplined nature. So I want to know more about that. Like, is it hard for you to stay disciplined with this stuff? Is there ever internal resistance, or is it like, no, this is me fully?
I'd say I definitely am naturally more disciplined than most people. I think that's just my natural inclination. I think what a lot of it was, especially early on in my journey, was less discipline and more a lack of something. I can relate it to my basketball career. I started playing basketball in 4th grade. Most of my peers started in 1st or 2nd grade. And so I was behind and I felt behind. And I just hated that feeling. I hated feeling not as good as other people. It drove me insane. And so I would spend hours in the basement. I wrapped my basketball with a plastic bag to make it more slippery. And I would just dribble, ball handle, hours every day to the point of like my hands got raw, like they were dry, like it was flaky. And I would do that every single day. And then next thing you know, like I got better at it. And I was dribbling better than most people. And then that gave me a ton of energy. And so I think a lot of my career has been this feeling of like inadequacy, this feeling that I'm not as good as other people, and that I want to prove like any slight, any like, oh, he's only 19 or you know, any slight at all, like I take that as fuel. And then I would say the second part of it is like I try not to rely on discipline at all. That's one of the things I learned at Beehive. They worked 2-week sprints instead of month long commitments, and just that decreased feedback loop that you increase the amount of deadlines helps motivate you. I work really well on deadlines. When there's something that needs to be done by end of the day, like I'll get it done. But if it's something like that's, just like the book, like if I'm gonna think of a deadline for me 1 year from now, it'll never get done. But if
Mm.
every day I have a deadline, hey, I need to write 2 pages, it'll get done. And so creating artificial deadlines as best as possible to manufacture urgency has been definitely, I'd say, more important than relying on discipline or motivation or willpower.
Mm. Do you feel like your fuel source has changed as you've been in this game of, we'll call it online business or creator economy?
I'd say slightly. I think for the most part, it's the same. When I first started, I was seeing all these people making magical internet money, and I wanted to know how. I was like, well, how are these guys making 10K a month? Not showing their face online or not, you know, only working 2 hours a week. Like, what is this magical nonsense? How do I do that?
Right.
And now that that's kind of my reality, it's like, okay, well, what's the next level? Oh my gosh, 10K per month wasn't the goal. It was the baseline to the real game. And just like realizing that the game always evolves and expands. Uh, it's now more of a video game than anything to me. So it's like
Mhm.
when I work with my clients and they're like, you know, they make multiple millions and their net worth is mega millions. Like that's inspiring. Like, why can't I do that? Why not me? And so I think it's always been of like looking at others and being inspired instead of being bitter or thinking like it's for someone else. Like, why not me?
Mm. I'm wondering if you could give the people some sauce in terms of, okay, we talk about make money online, online business, just to go sign clients. Like it sounds simple because like there's nuanced skills to have to be able to do that. But it's interesting because you don't brand yourself as, I don't know, marketer, agency owner, whatever it is like that you're doing business wise. So yeah, what's your perspective on that and like how have you been approaching that?
Yeah, I mean, for a while I was debating on like, there's the common you are your own niche versus niche down on one topic. And I see both sides. I have friends who do both. I write about very broad topics because that's what gives me energy. I don't think I could write about how to grow an agency for the next 10 years of my life. And so I don't do that. I don't want to play games where I know I'll fizzle out and burn out because I've done things like that. I've started a music promotion YouTube channel. I started Instagram theme pages. I tried to start a clothing brand. Anything that wasn't really in alignment with what gave me energy, eventually I either quit or I stopped or it failed. Like, it obviously did not go places. And so I'm really focused on doing things that give me energy because I know that I'm in this game for the long haul. And so if I can just focus on staying in the game, uh, good things tend to happen. Um, and so that's why I write broad and cool things have happened. Deion Sanders followed me, and I had a phone call with him. Conor
Wow.
McGregor follows me. Like, the Seattle Seahawks head coach follows me, and like, I'm gonna send him my book. Like, that's cool. That's really cool. Why would I ever want to niche down and talk about, you know, how to close clients? Like, it's too niche. Like, I would never want to do that. And so that's for me personally. Obviously, it may not be the best for business short term, um, but what I found is that if you do great work for your current clients, they'll often refer you. And so all of my ghostwriting clients have been inbound through referrals, through happy clients who want to spread the happiness. And so that's just what's worked
Good
for
way to
me.
put it.
It may not be the best way, but it's the way that's worked for me.
Well, it's one way for sure. I know at one point you had your branding, and this sticks in my mind for some reason. It was running a boutique content agency or something like that. And that I thought that was just like genius positioning. I was like, I love boutique hotels. Like I would always want to stay in a boutique hotel. This sounds way cooler. How did you come up with that word? Why?
It just it sounded premium and it sounded less, when you say you're a solo agency owner or a solopreneur, like
Yeah.
that's kind of egotistical. Like if I'm a client or a customer, I don't care whether you're a single person or whether you have thousands of employees. I just care that you can get the job done. And so just realizing, like, I often tell people the greatest skill you can have as an entrepreneur, a marketer, or even just a human being in general is empathy. Being able to put yourself in the other person's shoes. People often talk about the golden rule, like treat others the way you want to be treated. But there's a platinum rule. There's a rule above that, which is treat others the way they want to be treated. And so Um, that's where the word boutique came from. It's like, okay, if I was someone who wanted an agency or a person to help grow my brand, who do I want to work with? I want to work with someone who is professional about what they do, who cares about doing work the right way and getting results, and doesn't care about like showing off to the internet. Oh, I make this much and I'm a solopreneur and I can work from any like. I don't care about that. I want you to help me. You know.
Mm. Yeah, the professionalism is quite striking to me because, you know, I'm like, where did you get this from, right? Because I've always felt like professionalism comes from, okay, you've become a real professional. You're in the working world. That's where you learn. I mean, were you always like that in school and stuff, even growing up, like committed to, yeah, it's almost like committed to excellence in all things and doing it very diligently.
I pull a lot of inspiration from the people throughout history that I've studied, like people like Kobe Bryant, people like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like you have to be dedicated to your craft. And if you're truly in this for the long game, why would you not want to be the best you can be? Why would you not want to show up with intensity and urgency and raise the bar of excellence? So I try and do that, whenever I can. It's one of the lessons I've learned from both my parents. The way they show up is like leave every environment better than you found it, and that includes people as well.
It's a great one. Yeah, I mean, how are your parents about you leaving? Because I know you mentioned the grandparents, but yeah, what's that been like?
I have to preface this by saying that I have two of the greatest parents in the world. I
Yes, of
can't, like,
course.
everyone says that, but like, they have been nothing but supportive and patient and caring and leading by example. Like, I remember when I was growing up, my parents would tuck me to bed. I would go to sleep. And, you wake up in the night, you need to go to the bathroom. So I wake up, I go to the bathroom, and then I'd peer over down the hallway. There's just a little sliver of light under the door. And I was like, who is that? So I knock, and it's my mom. She's working. It's like midnight. She's past midnight, and she's still working. So what I realized, and what she told me later on, was like every night after she tuck us into bed, she'd go back to work and she'd be working almost all night. And then she'd wake up before us and make us breakfast. Like I can't think of a better way, like to show commitment, to show excellence, to show care. People can talk about it all they want. They can go on podcasts and, you know, come up with fancy quotes, but like there's nothing more powerful than showing. There's a quote that I love. If you couldn't tell someone you love them, would they be able to feel it through your actions? And just like the example that my mom and my dad set has been instrumental in my life. Like when I was first starting my business, I had no idea how to set up the Stripe payments and stuff like that. Like my dad helped me with that. And I don't think I would have been here without his help. He helped me set up my LLC and like all the stuff that most people online don't talk about, like being an
Mhm.
adult. And so obviously they're hesitant and they want me to be safe. And there's no reason I should be dropping out of a, whatever it is, like top 10 business school. I have, a safe, traditional, awesome career path set. Um, but I think again, which like through showing them, through sharing updates in our family group chat, like, oh my gosh, this happened, or, yay, this milestone, like taking them on that journey with me.
Mhm.
So then now it doesn't feel like a huge, like, cause I've gotten full-time job offers in high school and I was debating, like, should I take that or go to college? And we had serious, deep conversations about it. And so again, this isn't like the first time something like this, has something we've talked about. So, um, I'd say it's another step in the journey. I would also preface this by saying like I took a lot of AP credits in high school, so even if I leave and I come back, I can still graduate on time. So like I'm so ahead that I can take a detour and come back on time and be fine. So,
Yeah.
everyone's situation is different. I don't want people to be misled about that.
No, I appreciate you saying that, and it was beautiful what you said about your parents too. I could really feel that. It's incredible, and, something that was coming through is a lot of people push who they truly are or the truth under the rug for a very long time. And so, there's a reality where maybe you never had those seemingly difficult conversations or told them everything you're trying to do. and then you just suddenly want to drop out of college randomly. You're like, I'm doing this online thing. It's different because, like you said, you brought them on the journey, and it's been important for me too to communicate with them throughout the entire process, and it gives us a different level of freedom. Like knowing that the support of our family is behind us, even as we walk an unconventional path, it feels to me like a blessing. Whereas many just have to walk the unconventional path and they don't have a support. So yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up and prompting that reflection too. It's powerful.
Yeah. Hollywood likes to glorify the daredevil entrepreneur, the
They
bold hero who leaps without looking. But the truth is, most success stories aren't stories of recklessness. They're stories of preparation. And so that's what I want to recommend. Like I remember listening to podcasts like this when I was in high school and thinking, wow, they're so courageous to like, drop out and leave everything. But like that's
Mhm.
the highlight, 30-second reel. The truth is there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And so definitely make sure you've set the foundation where it's not a risk, it's opportunity.
Yeah, and you just gave me an idea, which maybe is a good idea for you. Maybe it's the second book. It's called Calculated Courage, right? Like
Mm.
it's not reckless, calculated. There's something there. There's a gem there. Newsletter, something. It doesn't feel like mine though. That feels like something more you would write than me.
I like that. It's like strategic stress, putting yourself in an environment or a situation where, you know that it's not like there's not actually any downside, but it forces you to kind of level up.
Hmm. Yeah, and I definitely have used that throughout my time. I work very well on deadlines too. I've noticed that. So the self-imposed deadlines, the adherence to that, I think you're inspiring me to step up to the next level. Because I have a million fucking ideas, um, but bringing one to fruition takes that daily consistency. So, I mean, dude, you've been an inspiration to me just observing like from behind the scenes, like, wow, he's publishing a book. It felt like it was out of nowhere. It was like, holy shit, that's incredible. So, yeah, man, I'm just so happy for you and I'm so excited to see how this book does and for the world to read it. I'm going to buy a few copies. I'll hand them out to my friends at school. I'll be like, you can just do things. It's actually so good. Like, there's got to be a t-shirt or something.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been thinking of t-shirt. There's a hat. I'm talking with the guy who's making hats.
Bro, I would
'Cause
love
it's
a
just such a
wristband.
catchy, yeah, wristband. I like that.
It's a little minimal and like I don't have many, but I'd like to maybe start wearing a few. I could just, bro, because I want to probably wear it in the football season. I'm gonna just look down at my wrist and it's gonna say you can just do things. And be like, okay, let's fucking go.
Yeah, it's a catchy phrase. I also haven't shared this anywhere, but this is book one of many books, and I hope that these books are the fully fleshed out version of my principles that I live my daily life with. And so, yeah, you can just do things as the first one. I think that's the foundation of what set up my journey. But there's principles that I also live by that future books will dive deeper into and fully flesh out that I think can change many lives. You can just do things, be impossible to ignore, make your own luck, busy isn't better. There's so many ideas that and principles that I've lived my life with, and I think that would impact a lot of people. So more to come for sure.
Yeah, man. I've got the almanac of Naval next to me, and I'm like, I need the almanac of Jay. It's coming. That's gonna be maybe book 50. But dude, I'm so excited for this book. And before we hop off, can you tell the people where can they get the book? When is it releasing?
Yeah, so the book is coming out April 30th. So I don't know when this podcast will be live, but you can find it on Amazon and it'll be available on this website, which is called youcanjustdothingsbook.com, as well as you can find it on my social platforms, so Twitter, Instagram, newsletter. Like you'll definitely be hearing about it within the coming weeks for sure.
Incredible. And yeah, I'm gonna try to have this out. I'm definitely gonna have this out before it drops. I'll probably ask you after what's the date you want me to drop it on. Um, but yeah, dude, I'm super grateful we got to chat. This was super fun and I'm just pumped for you. I'm pumped to keep watching your story. And if you come back to Illinois at any point, let me know. I'm around.
For sure. Will do, man.